I've been very lucky to get the opportunity to travel quite a bit the last few years, and in doing so, I've really streamlined my systems. So in today's video, I wanted to share some of my top packing hacks. These are things that I use to pack light, be very efficient in doing so, and always feel like I have everything I need and I'm well dressed on the other end. So let's get started. So my first tip to pack light and always be satisfied with what you bring is to start with the shoes. I had to learn this one the hard way, especially as I first started traveling, because you have these ideas in your head of like what people are wearing and what you want to wear, and you have such cute outfits that you want to put together. But when you start doing that with improper footwear, and more importantly, shoes that are going to be uncomfortable, they're going to give you blisters, they're not going to be supportive enough, it ends up getting in the way of the overall enjoyment of your trip. And in my experience, the easiest way to work around this is to start with your shoes. So whether you're starting with what you already have in your closet, or you have a pair of shoes that maybe you want to bring with you on vacation, make sure that you're trying them on, making sure that you're isolating your most comfortable pairs of shoes, and specifically those that are going to work for the season that you're traveling in. So whether that's hot or cold weather, then you're going to want to try them on and wear them for at least a day. And you're going to pay really close attention to how your feet feel, because if they hurt even a little bit, it is not going to be worth bringing them on vacation. They will hurt a million times worse once you are swollen from jet lag and from all the exhaustion, and the temperatures are fluctuating, and it's just a lot as you're walking so much on vacation. So by starting with comfortable shoes, you can then build really cute outfits around those. And it's been such a great way to think about outfit building, because it's kind of flipping it a tiny bit, and I have never been disappointed when I've done that. My next tip is to always have a color palette. This is definitely a carryover from my own wardrobe curation. If you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I think having a wardrobe color palette is a total game changer. And as soon as I started focusing in on that, I ended up with so much variety in my wardrobe and a lot more versatility. And the very same logic applies to when you're packing for a trip. So when you're building out your capsule for travel, and especially if you're working with a smaller suitcase and a carry-on, this is going to be extra important. You want to be really mindful of not only how your colors are going to mix and match together, but also the colors that are going to be the most functional and practical as you're traveling. So I know personally, I really like to wear the color white and off-white, but I rarely bring those with me when I'm traveling, because the chance of them getting stained is very high, and then I'm less likely to reach for them because I don't want to damage them. So if that's similar for you, then definitely make sure that you're choosing your darker colors, or overall your more functional colors. And of course, if all else fails, you can bring all black. I'm wearing all black today, and it's definitely one of my favorites, and when traveling, it always works. Especially if you're going to a city, it tends to work regardless of the overall atmosphere and the vibe, and it gives you so much flexibility, and you never have to worry about stains. So similar to those 2 points, my next one is to plan your outfits. This takes a little bit more work in the front end, and you definitely have to back up your packing. You're not going to be very successful if you start packing the night before your trip, but if you give yourself a couple days or a full week, I like to do, so I have plenty of time, then you can really be mindful about this and really start to put together some great outfits. So you're going to start with your shoes and then build up, considering the weather that you're going to be experiencing and what you need to do, whether that's dressy or casual on your trip. And then putting together outfits, and as you put together an outfit that you love, take a picture in your in the mirror that you're looking in and save that on your phone in a folder, and then pack those items together. And I find that that makes such a big difference when you get to the other end, and especially if you're traveling somewhere that's going to have jet lag, then you're going to be so tired, you're not going to want to deal with it. You're going to forget everything you packed, all the cute outfits you came up with. And I have saved myself so many times by going back to my folder and then looking in my suitcase and going, oh, thank God, the whole outfit is right there. My next tip is to always bring an extra bag for dirty clothes, or specifically clothing that maybe starts to absorb smells on your trip. And this is something that I never really did before, and I never thought of until recently. I went on a trip, and my husband and I ate at an amazing restaurant, and it was a really cool setup where you sit directly in front of the chef, so they kind of cook right in front of you. And he was using a lot of strong flavors and a lot of strong aromas and cooking with smoke. And it wasn't until we left that we realized our clothes had absorbed all of those smells. And then we made the mistake of taking those clothes. They were perfectly clean, they were brand new, we had just worn them one time. We put them back into our suitcase, and our suitcase started to smell like those clothing, those clothing items. And we could have saved ourselves a lot if we would have put those in a separate bag. My next tip is to be very strategic with your toiletries. Try to get your skincare down to a really streamlined approach and bring the bare minimum. And then within that, you can depot everything into smaller sizes that are going to be sufficient for the time that you're gone. on, so you don't have to worry about stuffing giant things into those really little tiny travel-sized toiletry bags. And then also, if you don't want to bother with that, there are so many great travel size items now that are available, and I like to find the travel size versions of brands that I already like. So anytime that I have like a Sephora points gift or I get a gift with a purchase, I'll put those to the side and save those. And then as an additional part of that, I always keep my toiletry bag packed. And as long as I have something that's basically full of everything I'm gonna need, when it comes to actually putting that in my suitcase, I can quickly go through it all, make sure nothing's expired, make sure that everything is everything that I'm looking and needing, and then I can just throw that in my bag, and it saves a lot of stress and a lot of time. And another thing I wanna touch on really quickly about your toiletries is, especially in my experience when I've been in Europe versus the US, they can be really tricky about the size requirements and also what they classify as needing to be in your toiletry bag. So I've had liquid makeup tossed because they consider that to be a liquid, and they would have preferred that to be in my toiletry bag. So make sure that you're checking all of these things so that you don't have a beautiful piece of makeup thrown out, or worse, really expensive skincare tossed. That's happened to me and it's terrible. And my last tip is to always check the size limit and the weight limit for your luggage. This applies both to your carry-on or your checked bag, or your personal bag that you're allowed in addition to your carry-on. And it's so important that you do this because in my experience, this can change across airlines and across countries. So especially if you're going to be traveling from one country to another, it's so important that these specifications match so that you are also on the smaller end of everything, so that when you come back or you go in between those two, you don't have to worry about your bag not working for one but working for another. And it's really important to take the time to do that. Get a little scale and actually measure out your luggage, and it has saved me so much. So those are some of my top tips for packing really efficiently and being really happy with everything that you bring on the other end. I would love to know if you have any tips, especially if you've traveled to different locations, you've done so a lot. What has really worked for you and what hasn't? Feel free to let us know in the comments down below, because I would love for this to become a really great resource for any packing that you need done. And like always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Have a great day.